Okay legends, we are back and today's finally the day we're going to start doing some 12 volts. So quick recap on what we've done so far. Totally gutted the boat, the console's been out, it's been fiberglass, patched, gel coated, sanded, ready for a cut and polish. We have put a 130 Yami on the back. We've replaced the throttle, control gauge, we've replaced the ignition. We have hooked up and bled the hydraulics. We've got a new steering ram seals on the hydraulics on the motor. All the cabling from the motor to the console's been run. We've got all our wiring that we're going to hook back up on the floor there, all labelled, ready to hook back up. We have fitted our trim tabs on the back. They've been tested and are functioning perfectly well. We've fiberglassed and modified our swim platform to go around the trim tab. We have put in, or installed our underwater light. I've just hooked up a bit of a tester here. So that's just a Deutsch plug connector there, positive and negative. If I can just poke them in there like that, there we go. We have a wicked big underwater blue light there. It's going to pump out some serious light. So I wanted that specifically for both squid and barra. So in winter time, I'm going to try a bit of nighttime blue lighting. And that thing is huge, that blue light. It's a rather expensive one. So that was a bit of a process to get in just because of the location and the wiring and everything. But yeah, we're all good. We've got our new Deutsch connectors on the trim tabs that we did. So we've got our waterproof Deutsch plugs all redone. They were the original ones there. I had to cut off to get them all through. And yeah, redid everything. So yeah, we're good to go. We have a brand new fuel sender unit on the way. The fuel sender was totally cactus, it's gone. I've got 2 new fuel lines in the ute, and when we get the fuel sender and put that in, we'll replace the fuel lines. They've all been taken out as well. And that's all the way from the motor to the fuel filter. We got a brand new fuel filter ready to go on as well. And then from the fuel filter back to the tank. So all the fuel lines will be replaced. Speakers are out. One of the speakers is shot, the cone on the back's all torn. So I don't know what I'm going to do there, whether I can just purchase one speaker, because they're quite expensive speakers. They're JBL audios, or JL audios, one of them. They're about, I don't know, $1,000 a set. So see if I can just replace one. And then I came across another problem too. So we've got this going on with the electric motor. So we've got the curly cord is cracking apart on both the power and the GPS unit. So, me being me, started Googling and I found some parts. So I've got curly cords on the way in the post. So that'll be another video. I've got the switch motherboard there. Well, not that's just a light motherboard for the indicators, but we've got it all pulled apart. So I checked it all that I could physically do it myself, and I can, no dramas whatsoever. So we got 2 replacements on the way. So brand new curly cords. And then yeah, so that's that. And then after that, we'll worry about the battery system. So I just want to get the boat functional. I can run it off a battery and go for a test run, make sure everything's sweet. And then after that, yeah, we'll worry about we're going to do a lithium battery setup for the electric, and yeah, go from there. The other thing is through hole. So we've got a seacock we got to replace. And a fitting, so we got those we got to replace. That's totally seized inside, old green corroded. I want to replace that with something a bit more substantial, and then put all the pumps back down in the bilge. We got the bait take pump, the bilge pump, and the deck wash to go in. So they've all been tested, they're good. I bought a brand new float switch as well for the bilge pump. Normally I run the rule bilge pumps with the auto float. They've got like a sensor on it, but I've found I don't know, the sensors are a little bit intermittent on it, whether there's a little bit of something gets in the way or a bit of growth goes over the top after a while, because if it's wet in the bilge, I don't know what happens, but the auto only intermittently kicks on. It's not super reliable, so I'm going back to a float switch just for some peace of mind. So yeah, that's where we're up to. That's what, 5.5 minutes of running through what we've done, and that's not to mention all the patching we've done on the boat as well. We've done fiberglassing, gel coating, flow coating, bogging, shitloads of sanding. So yeah, we've done a lot of work to this little thing already, and we haven't even touched the surface of detailing or anything yet, so we still got to do all that. We've got to relocate sounders, we've got to do a whole heap of others. But at the moment, we're going to focus on the 12 volt. So the aim today is to get the core 12 volt done. So everything from the transom to the console, get it all hooked up, get it to a point where I can turn the key on, everything comes on, sounders, ignition, motor, everything. We can take it for a drive, and then we can go from there. So yeah, we'll hop to it. So first things first, we've got our old switch panel here. So we're going to reuse the switches and the panel. We're going to bugger the circuit breakers off and go with the old blade fuse over the circuit breakers, and they've got LED indicators, so if you blow a fuse, the indicator lights up, you know exactly which one's cooked. There's no second guessing or anything, pressing buttons, seeing which one needs to reset. And put a call out on Facebook, on the stories and Instagram, about new switch panel backing, because this one's obviously got all the holes in it from the circuit breakers. I didn't want that, and I had two legends come to the rescue. Aqua Mobile Marine Services, I think they're down in the Sunny Coast Brizzy area, and another fella here, I can't remember his name, I'll put his name down in the description. He's a cabinet maker slash wood guy, but also does laser cutting, obviously, for the cabinet making. And these two guys, no shit, the next day I had both of these express posted to me in the mail. I got one matte black and one gloss. So either way I'm going to use both of these, because one of them's going to be a reverse backing board, and the other one's going to be on the face, so they'll sandwich together in the console. But I gave them the dimensions, drew them all up, gave them radiuses, holes, and they've all been laser cut, so there's going to be absolutely no risk of any cracking or anything, which is absolutely awesome. So we're going to take out a switch panel, clean it up a bit. Switch panel goes in there. That in turn goes in the console where it used to be. So thanks to you legends, that was super quick. We got no one local who does anything like that, and for those guys to get it done same day off a drawing I gave them, and have it to me within a day, that's just amazing. So if you're in need of it, check them out guys. I'll leave both their pages down in the description below. And yeah, so first things first, when it comes to 12 volt, I've got my list up here. I've got a lot of crap in the way. Oi! I'll jump over. So this is what I like to do. I like to just do a rough diagram of my boat, label everything that's going in the boat and roughly where it's going to go, and then we're going to do our switch panel. So we've got all our things that are going to be running off the panel itself. This isn't including extras that run straight off the battery on their own circuit breakers or anything. This is purely off our switch panel. And then we write down our ampage or amp draw of each particular item. So that gives me an indication of what size wire I've got to run, and also what fuses I want to run as well. So the only one here of any significance is the deck wash. He's a 25 amp draw, so I've got to go and get some thicker gauge wire for that. Everything else is 5 amps or under. So I've got some 7.5 amp tin twin core there. We can use that. And then, so that gives me an idea of what I'm running to the switch panel for starters. So that's where we're going to start. And after we've got that set, then we'll move on to the other things. We've got a electric bow mount motor there with 60 amp breaker on it. What else have we got here? We've got trim tabs, which I think I might put a breaker on. It's only 25 amps. So 50-50 whether I run it out of our fuse block or I run a breaker. So our fuse block's rated for 30 amps, but I'll just see how tidy I can get it first, and then yeah. So the aim is for all of this to be so neat that I can just poke my head in the console, visually see any lights that pop up if I've blown a fuse or any breakers that have tripped, and it's just poke my head in, see what's going on, and if it's not working, happy days, I know exactly what it is. I don't want to be going from the back hatch of the boat to under the console and back and forth, because that's right on a transom. And usually when stuff goes wrong, it's in not ideal conditions, and the last thing you want to do is have a hatch open and water coming into the back of the boat where all your batteries are, while you're trying to figure out what's going on with the wiring, or ducking your head down in the bilge section. So we're going to make sure everything's fully sealed, routed from both the battery hatch there, which is on this corner, and the bilge, and we're going to run everything through to the console, so it's in a nice dry place above deck, and I can access everything super quick and super easy if I need to. So that is the aim of doing that. On top of that, we've got our massive list of repairs and things we've done. We've ticked off a few here. We've ticked off the console, we've ticked off the gel coat patching on the inside. To buy, we've got a new trailer on the way, stay tuned for that. That cost me a little bit, but there's a very good reason why I've done that. Fuel lines are sitting in the ute. Outside we've done gel coat patching, that's all around the boat, underneath the boat, you name it, I've already done it all. Trailer winch post I had to get re-engineered and galvanised because it was broken, so that's been replaced. Engine swap, so I got the new 130 on the back, and hydraulic seal kit, because we found out that the hydraulic seals on the steering ram were busted, so we replaced them while we're going. And these are all the items that were on the boat that I needed to test. So all the batteries are cooked, so we need a whole new battery system, which is a significant cost. I'm not too happy about that, but is what it is. We're going to go lithium for the electric anyway, so no dramas there. Haven't been able to test any of these too full on yet. The sounders both did work when I picked the boat up. I assume most of NMEA works because they were hooked up to the sounders and everything, but I want to test that. Sonic carb I didn't check. 80-pound electric we didn't plug in because the batteries are cooked. The radio works, I know that because it was left on and it was running in the thing, and the fuel sender we found was dead too, so the new one on the way. So yeah, for a boat that was meant to be a turnkey package and on the water, that is a bloody big list of stuff to do. So that should give you guys an indication of how many things you should be keeping an eye out for when you're buying a boat, and how many things you should be running over, because that all adds up to some significant costs down the track, especially when you get things like your 12-volt motor, parts, batteries. Like we've got 3 batteries there. We've got 2 140 amp hour AGMs plus a cranking battery. So even if you went down the AGM route, 360, yeah, well over $1,000 worth of batteries there. When you're going down the lithium route, probably $2,000 worth of batteries. So yeah, all these costs add up, and before you know it, your $20,000 boat's turned into a $30,000 or $40,000, and you've blown your budget clean out of the water, and you haven't even been able to use your boat. So luckily for me, there's a few good things on this one. That trailer is pretty much brand new. It's a heavy duty galvanised one too. It's got extra oversized cross members, massive drawbar, so I think it was particularly picked because I got this one from up in Darwin, so a bit of corrugations and off-road, but it never got there. So it got to Darwin, but it never got to getting used to its full potential. It just kind of sat. So yeah, this trailer's only a year or so old, and it hasn't even got any surface rust on it whatsoever. So that is going to help fund the new trailer, and the reason we're going a new trailer is because I'm going to aluminium to drop some weight. So the Navara's got the canopy and the tray on the back with the overall legal tow weight and maximum load weight of the car. I want to shed some weight on the trailer on this I think we drop a good couple of 100 kilos, and although it might not sound like much when you put 200 kilos worth of fuel back in the boat, or at least 180 kilos of fuel, maybe some water, that 200 kilo difference is a lot, especially if you're doing long trips. Should anything happen, crash, anything like that, make sure everything's above board, because insurance is pretty quick to wipe their hands of you if you are the slightest bit non-compliant with legalities. So make sure everything's above board. If you've got to change some things to make sure everything's safe and as per the rule book, definitely do it, because you don't want to be stuck in a situation where I have in the past, where they send you a letter saying denied and you're in the hole for your entire wrecked boat. So anyway, let's get on this 12 volt. Okay, so we've got our switch panel out. Look at that absolute mess there. There's inline fuses and random breakers that have been disregarded over time. That thing is rusty as hell. But one thing I wanted to show you, I actually had to break a few of these breakers to even get them out. So that's the switch there. I don't know whether you can see that start in there. That's all corrosion inside that breaker. This one's fully rusted out, obviously. There was another one I snapped here. Here he is. This one here. So you can see that blade there on the breaker. Now that is one of the key items that's meant to connect. Obviously that pin there joins, but the power flows through that, and that's all going black and green in there. So there's been water ingress, and then you can see it all starting to corrode down inside. So I don't know, they're really good when they're sealed, but the moment they get a tiny little bit of salt water in them, that's the end of them, because they're an enclosed unit. It just seems to fizzle up, and anything with salt water and electricity just corrodes 10 times faster. So what we're going to do is all the things that go into fuses we're going to cut off. We're going to keep our little piggyback leads here. All the crimps and everything going to the switches themselves are awesome. All the things going to the circuit breakers, you can see there's obviously different size crimps, because some of the wires are thicker than other, but some are the good crimps that are fully resin sealed, others are non-sealed and they've just been left open, and some haven't been heat shrinked at all. There's bare wire hanging out there. So that's what I mean by a professional job. So this was done by Sparky apparently, but you can see like there's wires hanging out the back of crimps there. Like this is 100% not how you do marine 12 volt electronics. Everything has to be sealed, whether that be with the heat shrunk connections that have the infilled resin, which is what I love using. These ones here, I just pick them up from JCar. You can get them online for heaps cheaper. They're PowerTech. So when you hit them with a heat gun, it heat shrinks around the connection that you've just crimped and releases a resin, which in turn completely seals where the wire goes into the connector. And then I always run a heat shrink over the back of it as well, to eliminate this happening where if wires are pulled and stretched, they come out the back, and then your entire connection is void, because you've got exposed wires exposed to salt air, salt water, and then that's when corrosion happens. Get green death, that'll trace down through the wire, and where you think you can just snip the wire, put a new connector on, you'll snip it, you'll find it's green, you'll keep snipping, and then you'll find out you've got to replace that whole run of wire. So yeah, do it properly the first time. One little bit of heat shrink and one proper connection will save you heaps of hassle down the track. So we're in an open boat, it's going to get wet no matter what happens. At some stage you're going to get caught out in bad weather, salt water is going to come flying in the boat, 20 litres per wave, and you want to make sure all your 12 volt is nice and sealed up, so you don't have to worry about revisiting that the moment things start getting a bit moist inside the boat. So hot tip, do stuff properly the first time. Okay guys, so got my list of wiring and connectors that I need from JCar. Got everything sprawled out here, labelled over on the list. So I'm going to catch up with Belle and Tao. They're going to playtime at the library, so I'm going to go spend some time with them, and then Belle will be tucking out, going down for a sleep. and we'll be back with everything we need and get stuck into this wiring. So I've got to get some heavier duty cable, some different crimp connectors, 25 amp breaker for the trim tabs, and then we should be good to go. So grab this stuff on the way up to see them, and I'll see you guys when we're back in the shed. So this is where we're at the moment. That whole bag is just full of all the redundant stuff I just snipped off, and this is what we're left with. So all the connections and everything is still really good on this panel. All the red wires hanging out are obviously the positive connections that are going to go to the fuse box. They were originally going to circuit breakers, and then that lonely black guy there is a piggyback negative that goes through the whole circuit there. So what we're going to do now is just put our heat shrink joiners on here on one end, ready to extend them all over to the fuse block, and then yeah, we'll work out what wire length we need between where this is mounted on the console and where I'm going to put a backing board inside the console, and we're going to mount everything on that backing board. So like the Sony carb, NMEA, will all be on a board, and then it'll all be on the front face of the console, not screwed to the console itself, so we don't put any more holes in that fiberglass. We'll fix the board to it, and then yeah, everything can be mounted to that, moved around, and we can kind of lay it all out before we actually put it in the console, make sure everything's nice, neat, tidy, and go down that path. So get to putting the joiners on all these, and then we'll start looking at how we're going to run our wiring. Inundated with chickens here. Jenny, get out of the shed. Come on, out. Swear to God, these chickens. Oi! Find eggs in the most random spots. Go on, out you go. Anyway, okay, we've got our switch panel all extended here. So they're all the same size. I just wanted to show you these crimps here. So they've been fully done with a heat gun. And as you can see, you can't even bend them. They're absolutely solid, filled with resin. And that means they're airtight, they're solid, they can't bend and the wire come out of them either. So I'm now just going to put red heat shrink over the top of them again. You definitely don't have to, but that's just something I do, peace of mind. It's just, yeah, what I do. Anyway, so we'll whack them in, and that way I've got my whole switch panel with all my wiring all the same length. And what we're going to do there is put a Deutsch connector between the switch panel and the fuse block, and that way if ever in the future I want to pull the switch panel out and replace the switches, or one goes, all I have to do is disconnect the Deutsch plug, pull the whole panel out, and I don't have to kind of pull all the wires off the back of the switch and muck around that way. I can just pull the whole thing out with the loom attached, replace the single switch, or add switches or anything like that, and then yeah, plug Deutsch back in, happy days. So that's the thought process and the path we're going down. So it may look like it's quick, but it's quite time consuming. We're cutting individual bits of wire all the same length, stripping, crimping, heat shrinking, and yeah, it's a slow old process, but it's very, very worth it to do it right the first time. So we'll get to put some heat shrink on these ones, and then we'll zip tie them all up so that everything's the same length, and then we'll get onto our Deutsch connector. Okay, so we have got our dummy panel here. I've just mounted the switch panel to the acrylic panel that's going to go on the console. We've got all our wiring done there and zip tied off, and they're all individually labelled as per the front of the switch panel. So when I got my head in there, I don't have to keep poking back and around to figure out what's what. And now comes the important part. So what we're going to do is mount it in the console and figure out where our cables are going to run inside the console so that the bends in the cable are exactly where I want them before I cut anything and put the Deutsch connector on the end. That is because every time you put a bend in your cables like that, if you bend down nice and straight and sweep it, and then do another bend, maybe a bit further along to go along another bend in the console, all your cable lengths will change lengths, which means if you cut them all the same length, throw it in the console, go to join it up, and or even put your Deutsch connector on now with all your cables at the identical length, it'll look beautiful so long as your cables are straight. The moment you put a bend in it, you'll start getting kinks and all sorts of crap going on. Some will end up longer than others, and you'll end up getting that, I suppose, slightly dodgy wiring look where everything is kind of bundled up and wrapped up in electrical tape because there's some wires longer than others and they've kinked them and then wrapped in electrical tape so that it all looks neat. But the moment you go to trace anything, it's all terrible. So we're going to avoid that. So this is a hot tip. Put your first sweep in, put a loose zip tie around it, fit it to your console, run your cables exactly where you want them, and then mark or zip tie it off nice and tight at the end, cut it all off there, then start putting your connections on, and you'll make sure that all your wiring is beautiful and neat, and it'll end up looking very professional. So we'll get into there, put our sweeps in, put a few more zip ties on, and then we can pull it all out and start crimping our Deutsch connectors on the end. Got some visitors. Hey Belle. Hey Mom. Hello. He's smiling. How you doing? Hello. You wake up. You just wake up. Yeah. It's the boat. Hopefully we'll be coming out in this soon. Yeah. Excited? Hurry up, Dad. Get on the water. Weather's good. Taking your sweet ass time, as usual. Hi. Hey. Super happy.
Maybe.
Yeah. Ooh, yep, that's you. So we have our sweeps all zip tied in, and you can see exactly what I mean. So all of these wires here were cut to identical lengths, and you can see what that sweeping has done. A couple of them are the same, a couple are different, so all of them end up being totally different lengths. So if you put your plugs on before you do that, the moment you start sweeping, it all goes really bad. So to get that nice tight loom, this is the way you do it. You loosely zip tie it first with your bending sweeps in, that gives you your lengths. Now we cut all that off at the same length, crimp our little pins on for our Deutsch connectors, and then put our plug on, and then we can cut all those zip ties because they're only temporary, and then neaten it all up. And yeah, zip tie it down nice and tight, and we'll throw a bit of terminal grease on the back of these just to double check, make sure everything's hunky-dory and there's no possible corrosion there, and happy days. We'll keep plodding along. So next step, cut all this off level and then put our Deutsch connector plug on, and then we'll tune back in. So yeah, plug's on, and that's her there. So you've got to put these tiny little crimps on the end of each wire, and then use a special crimping tool so that little crimp goes down inside there, and when you close it, you'll see these little teeth come in, and that crimps the Deutsch plug connectors on to the end of the wire, and then you push them through, and then we use that little jobby there. It goes in the end there, and that seals it and makes it watertight. And we do the same there with the pins, and then you've got two plugs. So I'll keep the pin one aside, and we'll do this one here and another one on the other wires here because I haven't got a connector that's big enough. So I've got two of those, and then yeah, we got two plugs, and it's just plug and play then. Nice and easy, watertight, beautiful, and neat. Just thought I'd run you through exactly what I'm doing here wire-wise, because there's not many diagrams that really show, because the switches on the back of this one are 4-pin, which is one common positive, one light positive, one load positive, and then an earth. So I've just jerry-rigged up a whole little system here to show exactly how I'm doing it with the fuse blade block. So this is a powered fuse blade block. Cutters out of the way there. So that's a common positive that comes from your power source, that being your battery, to the base of your fuse block. And that gives all the fuses power, as well as the little LED indicator. So if I turn that on there, you can see that switch is on. But obviously if there was a blown fuse, that light would come on and you know exactly what circuit has a blown fuse. So that's the reason I like to use these, very visual. So your power comes into your fuse block, which livens up all these circuits here, should you put a fuse in. Then it goes from your fuse itself around to your switch that I've just got tacked on here because I've got to crimp those on yet. And then from the back of your switch, when you turn it on, the connection goes in and then goes out to our Deutsch plug connector, and that in turn will be plugged into all our devices. So I've just got a bilge pump running off here. So that's our switch there. Obviously nothing happening because there's no fuse in it, but I'll put a fuse in here now, like that. Get our little thing, our bilge pump is running, our light comes on our switch panel, and there's no light in the fuse. So that completes the circuit there, and happy days. Kind of action diagram, not a wiring drawing. You can actually see it in action there. So I'll keep to my wiring. Quick little update. So what I'm doing now is just mocking up the whole thing. So try and get my shadow. A bit hard because my light's directly above me. Jump over here. Okay, so I've got my switch panel on the backing board here, all wired up. They're coming down to the Deutsch connector plugs, which will be going into our devices, i.e. your actual live of your bilge pump and your live of your lights will plug in to here. And should I need to disconnect this from all our accessories or replace an accessory, I'll just remove the plug and then change out the accessory. And then all our fuses are coming down here to the fuse block. So I've just got this mocked up roughly where the fuse block, or not roughly, pretty accurately, where the fuse block will be sitting. So that'll be in the console to the outside, the wiring come down. The fuse block's going to be mounted about 1.5 inches below the mounting holes, which is about that. And then I'm individually running my wires, heat shrinking them and connecting them to the fuse block. That means it'll just be a transfer process. All I'll have to do then is grab the whole fuse block switch panel, take it over to the console, screw it on, and that's it. Everything is pre-cut, pre-crimped, pre-everything to the exact length. And then with everything we're plugging in, it's just a matter of running all the wires to the console, labelling them, matching them up to the pin on the Deutsch connector, and then Bob's your uncle, we're away, plug and play. So it should be very easy once it all comes together. It's just a matter of making sure your prior planning is accurate and everything's done properly first, and then transfer it nice and easy. Okay guys, it's dark outside, Belle's going down to bed and we're back in the shed, and I've just wired up the new float switch. I've just done a temporary link up just to double check that everything works before I go into it. So I always like to just physically check any devices that I've just purchased. Just make sure I don't go to the effort of heat shrinking absolutely everything, getting it all in there, and then finding out something's faulty or something's not quite right. So I've got that hooked up to my little switch, turn that on, bilge pump works good, and then if the float switch lifts up and it's engaged, it also works good. So yeah, just whenever I'm doing anything, I just like to test it. At the moment we're just connecting all our 12 volt I suppose extensions from all our devices in the transom, running them up to the console. So we got twin 7.5 amp double insulated wire. All of those connections there are crimped, double heat shrunk, then electrical taped, so there's zero chance of anything getting in there. And then all the devices are below 7.5 amps, so we're running that on everything. Everything's labelled. as per each device, and that means that when I pull it through to the console, I know exactly what wire's what, and then we just terminate them off in the Deutsch connectors and we're good to go. So I'm just getting all the pumps wired up now. So the underwater lights run ready to go, the bait tank pumps run ready to go. That's the bilge and the float switch, which I've just tested, everything works, so I'll wire that up ready to go. And then after that, it's the deck wash is the only thing back here left to do, accessory wise. And that's actually a 25 amp. So I've got some twin and earth 25 amp cable there, and that'll run up as well. So always make sure your cable is rated to what ampage you're doing, and then yeah, happy days from there. So I'll keep plodding along, and hopefully we get to pull all these wires through to the console tonight, and then I'd say it'll be over the next couple of nights throughout the week. We'll try and finish her off. So keep plodding along. Okay, now we've got everything wired up here, ready to rock and roll from the bilge compartment, and I'm just going to chase the wire through. So I've just got this is actually a joiner for a bit of yellow tongue flooring going down through there. I've got an access port here, here's my handy little O-light, and then I'm going to chase it through down into the bilge, tape the wires on the end, pull it back through, bob's your ankle. We've got the wires hanging out everywhere where the rest of the wires are, fully labelled, ready to go. So we'll duck our head down in that little cavity there with the light, try and find where all the cables go through, poke this chaser through, tape them on the other end, yank them back through, and yeah, we're good to go. So that'll be one more step down, and then wire up the deck wash with the heavier gauge wire, pull it through, and then we're close, we're getting close. Here's that's our chase there, she's all wired up, all the wires are hanging off the end down in the bilge. Here's the other end here. Just gonna pull this, make sure the wires don't get all tangled up, and then slowly pull them through. Voila. There we have all our labelled wires pulled through the cable duct there. So we'll just go down and bilge, make sure nothing's wrapped around or tangled, and then keep pulling them through until they're all tight, and then we're going to make a loom, put some conduit around it, and yeah, good to go. So another piece of the puzzle down. It's definitely not a quick process, the wiring side of things, that's for sure, but yeah, it's got to be done. So we'll redo it, and we're well on our way to having a really good finished product here. Okay, so we've just pulled the trim tabs through, we've left the control module over the side of the boat there. We've pulled these ones through the opposite way, and it's as easy as just mirroring LTT, plug them in together. We got trim tabs, so that's where that labelling machine comes into its own. Late nights, your brain's not working properly, you won't stuff anything up because it's just match them up, plug and play, easy as. So it's getting on, I'm getting buggered, tired, I've got a big day at work tomorrow, so keep plodding along for as long as I can, but yeah, good chance I'll probably see you guys tomorrow evening, see how we go. Well guys, we're finally back at it. It's a wet old day outside. It's just finished raining, but got some good news. Our brand new fuel sender has finally rocked up. So it's been the best part of a few days since I've been in here. We've had a bit going on, but I'm super excited. Looks like we might finally make some headway today. So fuel sender's here. So first rank off the cards is get this fitted, get the fuel lines hooked up, and that way it eliminates any risk of anything going into the tank. And then we'll start on our 12 volts. So I've got a bit of thermalite board here that I've just hit with some flow coat, and that fits kind of in the console on the front face. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start laying out our system. So we've got our NMEA, positive and negative buses, stereo system, and anything else we can fit on there. And that just eliminates me screwing anything into the console itself. And then we have pulled all our cabling through, so we've got our NMEA system running through, we've got all our 12 volt there, we've got lights and accessories and power here. We've got our main power coming through, we've got our switchboard wired up with all our wiring loom going down that we made, so it's all in place, ready to rock and roll. I think the only thing I forgot to hook up was my anchor light. But I actually run one on, it's like a portable one with D-cell batteries, so it doesn't actually go through. So I might even pull that out and glass that up yet. I don't know, we'll see how we go. I usually run it in the seat behind me on the lean post, so if I can find somewhere I can run that on this boat, I might go down that path instead of doing that, but we'll see. I'm 50-50 on that, because that anchor, you got to run these, so it's, I don't know, a bit more reliable than having batteries. That way the light doesn't just go out overnight, you end up with a dark boat. So we'll see. If I do, all I can do is hook up some 7.5 amp tinned wire, run it through the console, and that's just another fuse, so that's no dramas. So yeah, apart from that, we've cleaned out our battery area. We've got to clean all this out, give it a nice scrub. That's when the battery's out of Scout that I'm running just to test everything. And then after we hook up the 12 volt, we'll be setting up for our lithium setup, which is 24 volt lithium to the motor guide, 24 volt 80 pound motor guide at the bow, a lithium setup for the house, and then just the cranking battery for there. But I've got to fit it all in. Plus we're going to be charging from the motor through the cranking battery to the lithium, and then the lithium will be converted to 24 volts to go to the trolling motor. So cool little setup there. I've been leaning on a few mates I know who have guided me through that setup, so it's yeah, there's been some advancements over the last 24 months in conversion of 12 to 24 volt and the elimination of 24 volt battery requirements and stuff like that. So if you're looking at putting lithium or running a 24 volt system in your boat, but you're sick of running a heap of batteries, you want to save some space and some money, this system's actually going to do that. So stay tuned for that. But for now, we're going to get this fuel system all done, fit this fuel filler, hook it up to some wires, turn the ignition on, and just give it a test and make sure it's working. And then after that, we'll hook all the hoses up. So we'll whack around, hook some wires up. Hopefully this works. Throw that down there. Should give me enough there actually. And make sure that all our wiring is working the way we want it to. So we'll pull some wiring out of here and find out where our fuel sender hooks into our yummy gauges and see if that works. Okay, so that's our fuel sensor labelled there. That's the old sensor connection that goes into the Yamaha backbone. So I'm just going to strip some of that off, maybe. It wants to grip, which it doesn't. Yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, got a little bit there, but attack that with some pliers. Okay. See if I can quickly. So this isn't what I'm going to connect to, obviously. I just want to strip these wires so I can quickly connect them to the sender. And plug it in to the yummy gauge, black and black. And hopefully we get a reading as that sender goes up. So we've got a fuel sender hooked up to our yummy gauge backbone, the fuel sensor wires. We're going to cut all this out and redo it from there forward properly. But for now, I'm just going to get in there, put her up in our plug, like so, and turn our battery isolator on. Whoa. So, ignition, beautiful. The gauges are running there. So we've got trim and tilt working. There's our fuel. So if I lift this up, hopefully we should have some fuel, but we don't. No fuel reading. Okay, interesting. Okay, so even with the new sender, there's no fuel reading on the gauge. Economy, da 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 da. Okay, so we shall see. We might have a different issue going on here, but so that's yeah, no connection. So we shall see what's going on there. We'll have a bit of a tinker around, see what we can figure out. So no love on the fuel sender hooking up to the yummy gauge, but we're going to put the new fuel sender in the tank anyway and just bolt it down with the gasket just to make sure nothing gets in the tank. And then I've got Benny coming around next week. We're going to run the motor on the new fuel system. He's just going to make sure everything's 100%, and then he's a qualified marine mechanic, so while he's here we'll fault find what's going on there, and if it's the plug for the backbone, well then so be it. The wires are a little bit green on that, so there's a good chance, yeah, it could be corrosion issues, could be wiring issues, earthing issues, who knows. Whatever it is, it's electrical. So we'll leave that. We've got everything new from the tank back, so the only thing left to replace would be the connection between the gauge itself and the sender. So if that's the issue, that's what we'll do, and that'll be one less issue I bump into down the track, I'm sure. But for now, we'll put this sender in, bolt her on down, and that will seal the tank back up 100%. Nothing can get back in there, and then yeah, we'll start on our 12 volt. Almost got to fit it back in. Now, important thing when you're ever refitting a tank is try and use the original bolts. You can see these are totally different thread, different height, different everything. And if you accidentally try and start ramming in new screws or new bolts that aren't the same, and you strip one or get one stuck, you're in a world of hurt, because the nuts that these bolts go into in the tank are actually moulded in there, so if you bust one, I don't even know what the process would be. You'd probably have to rip the tank out. I don't know, it'd be a painful exercise to fix anyway, put it that way. So there's a particular stud pattern on the sender, so it only goes one way, and then yeah, as shiny and new as you want everything to be, these 9 times out of 10 won't be the same as your old tank. So just put them aside. You can use them somewhere else one day, and use your old fuel sender bolts, because although the stud pattern might be the same, the bolts 9 times out of 10 won't be. So it'll just save you some heartache down the track, especially if you're on the home stretch and you go to force one in, and then you've just created an absolute mission for yourself to try and fix it, or even get it out in some instances. So little tip there. Yeah, we're just about done here, hooking her up. I've got the wires extended, positive, negative. We'll just leave them hanging in the console for when Benny comes, and we'll suss out what's going on there. But it's not going to stop us hooking up everything else, and it's nice and easily accessible, so hopefully it's not a major issue, and we can move forward rather quickly once we figure out what it is. Okay, gotta put the stand. Okie dokie. That's our new fuel line. Gonna measure her up. Cut it about there. Wherever I just put my Stanley knife right in front of me. There isn't a plot here, guys. can use that somewhere down the track. Neaten that up a little bit. New hose clamp. Little ones. The bigger one here somewhere. Oh, where'd I put it? Definitely losing. Here we go, right on top of the battery. Definitely losing it today. Put it away around where I can actually get to it to tighten it up. On the barb. Beautiful. Tighten up your hose clamp, and that's the fuel system done. Thank God. And we'll start sorting this stuff out. Okay, we might as well take the fuel filter off over here. We've got a new one ready to go on, so I'm just gonna... Oh, she's tight. Take this one off. It's the old fuel line there. Oh, don't know where that's going. I'll get that out in a minute. We got new fuel hose coming out of the fuel filter, new fuel line going in, and then we've got the old fuel filter here. I'm going to take this bad boy off. Try not to spill any. Beautiful. Get rid of this fuel, take the bowl off, clean it up. Got a brand new fuel filter over there, hook her all back up. And then all of the bad fuel is completely out of the system. Zero going into my motor, so replace that quickly. So that fuel filter bowl on the bottom was stained and pretty rank looking from that shit fuel, so I've just put the new one on but kept the plastic cover on the bottom so it doesn't contaminate underneath, and we'll go get a new glass bowl for that underneath. That way it'll be crystal clear and I can actually see any contaminants, because I tried to clean that one up and nah, it's like real tinted brown from all the crap that's been in it in the past. So even if I was to poke my head in, I'd visually kind of get a skewed idea of what's in our fuel system. So yeah, do it properly, another, I don't know, 15-20 bucks, and yeah, we'll just have a hunky-dory system. So I'm going to pull this console back over. We're going to put the little hatch back in there, screw it down, bead a Sikaflex, and that'll be that done. That'll seal up over the fuel system, and then we'll start mucking around with our 12 volt. Okay. Just put a tiny little bead of Sikaflex around the that, so any water that does come under the console, should it, or in the console, can't leak there and sit on top of the tank, which is what usually corrodes your sender and filler. So the more watertight we can make it, the better, and since we went to the trouble of making all the holes on the console watertight, might as well keep doing it properly, and a little bit of sealant around those hatches in the floor, and just make sure minimal water gets in there. But yeah, screw it down and that's another job done. Slow and steady. No racers getting one here, that's for sure. Okay, so we're finally up to sorting the 12 volt out. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay our panel down here. We've got our fuse box all labelled, all running to the correct switches. So you'll have your main positive connection there going to a bus terminal, which will have a lead going to the base here, which will supply this whole circuit with power. And then should a fuse blow between the main connection and the switch, that means there won't be any power going to the switch, which means it won't run through to the device and it won't work. So that's the system we're going off, and that allows me, if I ever have to replace anything, I just undo my main cable here, and that whole system can come out and it can unplug instead of all the wires being connected. They're waterproof connections, and they'll be in the watertight area, so I'm not worried about ingress there should there be any, and I can just unplug, replace as need be down the track if I have to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through all our wires that we've pulled through, all the wires that are connected to our devices. We're going to label them exactly the same as we've labelled these ones. So our labels are matching identically, and then we'll be able to line them up with the male connections of our Deutsch connectors, terminate them all, crimp them, put our male connectors ready, and then it'll just be plug and play. Everything will line up perfectly. Each device will plug into each device, and that's it. Happy days. So got my little label machine here, so we'll go through, have a look at these wires. These wires are all labelled kind of correctly anyway, but we're going to do like for like, identical, and then we can trace absolutely everything. Terminate, plug and play. Happy days. And then it's just fit it up, plug it in, and it should run. So we're going to do that. It's going to be a slow little process, but I'll get back to you when we're ready to crimp all the connections on. Okay, so as I was labelling things, I came across two sets of twin core wire. One was the wire that went from the console to the bow for the nav lights, and the other one I'm assuming goes back to the anchor light. So I just quickly threw the positive and negative onto a battery, and the anchor light and the nav lights both didn't work. So I've traced the wires up. They go up this little conduit all through the gunnel. They pop out in here. This is where the speaker wires come out. There's a conduit, and then it runs up there into a kind of a wiring loomy thing. It's all piggybacked and whatnot in there. So there must be either a break or a corroded section of wire. The wire itself is copper, it's not tinned, so there's a problem from the start. So I've chased it, I've put my little yellow thing and punched it all the way through. It's popped out here. So I know I can cut that wire, pull it all the way through without losing my run, and I can pull a new run of wire through. I don't think I've got enough wire to do it, but I'll jump around the shed and have a quick look. I might have a roll of wire somewhere, and hopefully I do, and then I can pull a brand new twin positive and earth through, connect it straight to the nav light, not through a plug, and then run it all the way back to the plug itself on the fuse block end. So that should get me out of trouble there, and then we'll chase and follow the anchor one. The anchor one's going to be a lot easier. I've got the old sounder cables and transducers and everything up this end too, so I'm going to cut all the connections to them. They're just going to stay there for now, and then we'll focus on getting the electrical system sorted, and then we'll worry about sounders later. So we're making some progress finally. I actually hooked up the sonic hub, the sounder, and all the wiring that requires power up, and ran it through to NMEA, and then turned on the sounder, ran the sonic hub through the speakers, and just made sure everything worked before I start connecting, heat shrinking and all that. All the wiring's new apart from the sonic hub back, but that's like a proper loom that comes with the sonic hub, so I can't really change that. But everything works, stereo worked, everything. The speakers are completely shot. They're rat shit, so they're out. But the sonic hub works. It connects to the sounder, it talks, everything talks up the front. So yeah, everything's functional, which is good. So now it's just time to start terminating, heat shrinking and tidying up, and getting ready to set this out. So we'll be mounting our sonic hub here, NMEA is there. I just have a bus bar for negative and a positive terminal there just to connect the mains power to, and everything will jump off that. And that way it's fused from the motor to that terminal, and anything from there on has individual fuses as well. So yeah, it's just started raining outside again. You can probably hear it. It gets pretty loud in here when it rains, so I'm going to turn this off because it's about to get real noisy. She's coming in hot and heavy, and I'm going to get to wiring. So see you when she's looking a bit tidier.